Oh, Jesus, help me, God. Amen. Hi,
Hey, darling, how's everything?
everything is wonderful, and I am so happy to see you.
Oh, Hooker, you're so sweet. Wait, let me move some stuff around. I'm here in the dressing room. So here, I'm gonna move. Look, I'm gonna move this to the background. I mean, see an ironing board in the background. Yeah, I got to show this at. Well, you can still kind of. Well, let me. Oh,
That's
everything is
the
good.
only thing anybody's concentrating on is your beautiful face.
Well, aren't you so sweet for lying to me so early in the morning? Um, Yeah, I'm in Springfield, Illinois, Selena Lincoln, and I'm here doing a bunch of shows. Today's my final show, so I got a matinee at 2 p.m. That I'm going in for it. So this actually works perfect to be able to do it here if this is all right in the dressing room before the show gets going.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
Excellent.
I'm so happy that you made time to chat with me today, and so I can learn, and our listeners can learn a little bit more about the wonderful Dixie Longate. So I've been following you for, oh, honey, I don't know how long. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell our listeners that, yes, my accent's going to come out. My daddy's from Appalachia. So as soon as Dixie starts talking, I'm going to start talking too. And it's just going to
I
happen.
Every time I'm around people that have even a trace of Southern in them, they just all start. It all comes right front to the front. It's the funniest thing. And then when because I feel like I don't have that strong of an accent, and then I'll talk to my mama because I'm on the road all the time. I'll have a conversation with my mama, and it gets so thick after I get off a call from my mama. It's the same way. She just pulls me right there. So yeah, she's still is. I think there's some people that you talk to my mama or my mama when she was alive, and people would not understand what they were saying
Mhm.
because the accent was so thick. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it is. But yeah, since I've been on the road so long, I've had to sort of lose this, touch my accent just so that people can understand me. But it's part of the fun. They always comment on it. So we
Yeah.
want. What part's your daddy from?
My dad is right from on the border. He was born in Virginia and
Okay.
grew up in Kentucky. So he was right there in the midst of Appalachia, right on the border of both. And he was a dear man, and so yeah, that's where it comes from. Comes
That's awesome.
it's in these dang roots and they're right in those genes.
Can't get rid of it. Once it's in there, it's never going to leave. That's awesome. Now, how long have you been doing the podcast?
Pat and I have been doing the podcast for, honestly, it was a year ago in October, and it started.
So,
Yeah, that's all. It's been four seasons. We're in the fourth season. And it started because she's kind of my neighbor. We live around the corner from each other. We both work in the wellness field. I'm a hypnotist. She's a Qigong instructor. And we would go on these walks and just talk about anything. And I said, why aren't we recording this? This is podcast gold right here. And so I entertained the idea one day. I said, what if we just drew a word at random and talked about how it hits us, how the intention about or behind words, because there's so much power in the words, which is why you're so good at what you do. You make people laugh,
so
right?
sweet.
The words you have that you say have meaning, and so that's how it came to be.
That is awesome. I love hearing that. I think so many people during the pandemic, which it's so interesting. A lot of people during the pandemic had opportunity. Like everybody's like, oh, someday when I have more time, I'm going to dot dot dot. And then the pandemic rolled around, and then everybody had all this time. And the amount of people that just didn't do anything with the time, to me, is sort of staggering. And then every once in a while, you run into somebody that's like, you know what? During these last couple of years, I focused on something I never thought I would do before, and I made it successful, and I just committed to it. And I love hearing that. I think that's my favorite thing about hearing the good that's come out of
Yeah.
such a tough time. You have to look for the good that came out of people. And I think so many times and I talk about this a little bit in my new show, Cherry Bombs Bottle Rockets. I think so many people don't even realize that they did something amazing during the pandemic, and you have to kind of coax it out of them because people are so programmed to just think, my life is just my life. I just go about my day with no big event. And then you go, well, but you realize you did this, right? And they don't think about, oh yeah, I did that. Yeah. And they're
Mhm.
just, people are just not programmed to like celebrate themselves and
Yes,
show what themselves what they are capable of. And so I love hearing
absolutely.
a story like that. So that's great. That I'm so proud of y'all. And I love it. I just saw you commenting on one of my things. And that's where I saw it. And I was like, well, hey, I'll do that. I think that'd be fun. Why not? So
That's how
I'm
this interview started. I commented and said, "Oh my God, you'd be fun to have on my podcast." And about, I don't know, a half hour later, there was a message, and I was like, "Is this a spam bot?" Like, I about fell off my chair. I'm like, "What just happened?" Oh my God,
I
these
I
messages.
love
Oh, this is her.
I always, I'll sit down, I'll post something, I'll get back. I'll spend time always going back through things and commenting on things and trying to inspire or empower people or see what I can do to add value to the conversation that's happening. And then every once in a while, and I find wonderful things. People are so kind. But then every once in a while, I'll find something that is like your comment. I'm like, well, hell yeah, why not? That'll be fun. Let's do it. So I'm glad this worked out.
I'm
Absolutely.
glad it worked out too. And in here in a moment, we're going to pick the word together, and Pat won't
Okay.
find out about the word because she's off. She's moving her daughter this week.
Oh,
So
by the way.
I know. So she said she's really sad that she's missing meeting you. So she's looking forward to seeing this later. But we'll get to pick the word, and Pat won't find out about it until later this week. And we'll
Okay.
just have a little conversation about it. Before I do that, I want to know, Dixie, how did you start doing what you do?
I
How did your
started
Tupperware party come to be?
It all started about 21 years ago. I started selling Tupperware in people's living rooms, and it was just like it was the whole thing came about. A friend of mine, I went to a Tupper party. A friend of mine is like, "Oh my God, you do this is really fun. You would be good at this." Because the lady who was doing it was trying to recruit everybody. And then somebody said, "You should do this. That'd be great." And then I did. I was like, "All right, I'll give it a try." And I started selling. I was terrible at the beginning. I was terrible. I would pick up a bowl and call it a spoon. I was just terrible. And then it just sort of caught on, and more people kind of were having parties, and I was having a good time at the parties. And a friend of mine is like, "Hey, you know what? You can drink at work." And I'm like, "That's the best thing ever because I'm doing a party for work." And then and it just kept going. And then I was talking to I ended up doing somebody knew one of this. I was living back in California at the time, and somebody from in Orange County booked a party with me and said, "Hey, I know somebody from the Orange County Register, which is a big newspaper there. Would it be okay if they came and like do a little interview with you?" And I'm like, "All right, that'll be fine." And what I didn't realize was they were launching the entertainment section coming up in a couple of weeks. They didn't have one at that point. And when they launched it, I was on the first issue of the entertainment section, and I was on the front page and then page 2, and there were 4 giant pictures of me, 2 color on the front and 2 black and white on the inside, and this giant article. And at the time, I said the interviewer called me and did a little interview over the phone, did all the pictures up at the party and everything, and then afterward said, "Well, how do you want people to get a hold of you?" And I didn't have a website or anything back then, and I was like, "Well, if people want to do a party, I guess they can just give me a call." And so they published my home phone number there. And I woke up the morning that it got published, and my phone, it was back in the time where you had that little message machine. It was full. My thing was absolutely full. And I was like, what the hell is happening? And I called everybody back and tried to book all these parties and everything. And it just exploded. In the end, I ended up becoming the top selling Tupperware lady in the whole United States and Canada, which is crazy.
Wow.
And then a friend of mine who's a director from New York said, I was talking to him one day. He's like, "You should do this as a show." So we put it together as a show, took it to New York, tested it out, did real well. And then through a couple of years with some momentum, it ended up landing off Broadway. And that's how all this big stuff started. So then I did the show in 2007 off Broadway. And then in 2008, I started touring it. And the tour booker at the time thought we'd get, a little bit of traction out of it, maybe a year, maybe 2 years at the most. Well, hell, if you take away the pandemic years that I wasn't doing shows, I'm in the 13th year on the road with this show at this point, which is crazy. And I'm now
Amazing.
looking into 2024 with the tour. So it's just this kind of crazy thing that just kept going and caught a life of its own. So
That's amazing. That's
And I've been
awesome.
to venues, though, these small venues. I've done venues all over the world. I've been to 5 different countries now. I've gone everywhere with it. And it's just been such an, I mean, I never in my life would have thought that this would take off the way it has. But, and like right now, I'm in the sweetest little theater here in Springfield, Illinois. And, you know, with a couple hundred people coming to each show, we're just having a good time and just giggling up a storm. So it's fun.
I'm excited that you're coming to Ohio, where I'm from, later this summer. And I've
Well,
already got a band of my crazy weirdo friends that
that's
are all going to come visit you.
I can't wait. I've never been up there. I've been to Columbus, I've been to Cleveland, and I've never been anywhere else, come to think of it, in Ohio. So this will be my first time in Akron, and I'm real excited about it. It's gonna be a super stinking good time.
It is. It is. We're all excited about it.
Oh,
We're
that's so
already planning it. So without further ado, Miss Dixie, let's pick a word of the week
okay.
and then just see where it lands on us. And normally, as you know from listening to the podcast, we would meditate on it and do a definition and all that. But I think in the organic sense of how this is unfolding, people are going to be much rather kind of hear, I think, what Miss Dixie Longate has to say, some words of wisdom or inspiration that comes from you. So what do you say? Let's just give it a whirl.
Let's do it. Let's give it a try.
All right, here we go. Let's spin this wheel of mine and see what happens. Ta-da! Oh, girl, you never know what's going to land on this wheel. The word of the week, you can see it, is understanding.
Oh my
Oh,
Lord.
it
What
hit
a
my
great
heart in a certain place.
Given everything that's going on in the world, I think what we have the least of right now is understanding. I think people just fail to sit down and listen to each other when each other speaks and try to come to some sort of a common understanding. I think everybody has valuable. Everybody's life is valuable. Everybody has something to give and something to offer. But I think what happens so often is we don't state our case correctly, and then people yell over each other. Nobody listens. They just stop listening to each other, and there's no understanding. And if people would say, well, hey, hold on, I'm going to take a second. I'm going to listen to what you have to say, and I want to try to understand it. I'm not just going to just let it wash over me and right off the back. I'm going to try to understand where you're coming from, what it is that makes you tick, what makes you a great human being, because I think everybody has something amazing to offer. And if we just sit there and listen to each other and try to understand each other, then this world has no choice but to be even better. And I think that's a big key of things that are missing these days. My hope is that I always try to sit down and listen to people and get a little bit more understanding about other people, because it just makes me grow. And why wouldn't I want to grow on this life?
Absolutely. And what I find is that often in the absence of understanding is really just the presence of fear. What do you think about that? Do you agree?
100%. I think people, this day and age especially, you can see it so evidently. I think people, if you fear what you don't understand, and then you try to squash it. I mean, I think about people like that'll squash a bug. Well, why'd you squash the bug? The bug wasn't doing anything to you. Well, and it scares me. Well,
Mhm.
so why kill it? Just because it scares you, it's not going to get it up in your business. Let it go. It's going to do something else. It's not even. It's just trying to get away from you. It's just trying to live its life. And I think that is just a little version of the bigger problem. We don't know what it is, so we fear it, and then we squash it instead of
Yeah.
going, well, let me understand it, and maybe it'll speak to me, or maybe I'll get a little more about it, and maybe I'll become a little more compassionate and empathetic, and maybe I'll be able to have a slightly better take on the world. That's what I want to do. Hi, Miss Michelle. This is my friend, Miss Michelle. She's the one running around making sure that everything is working. Look, getting the show ready for later. I know.
I
But
love
no, I
it.
100% agree with you. I think fear is the root of us not being able to understand.
Fear is absolutely, yeah. Fear is the root of us not being able to offer understanding. And one of the things I teach here in my practice is people will often come in and say, I'm looking for a way to be able to find forgiveness, either for somebody else or for myself. And I ask them often, well, why is forgiveness necessary? Because I find, at least in my personal practice and my personal dealings, that it's not forgiveness that's really going to do any healing. Forgiveness is kind of like a band-aid. The healing comes when we offer understanding to, like, it's not condoning somebody else's, behavior or what they did or the outcome, but offering understanding that, you know what, that person is just working with the best tools that they have at the time. And that has nothing to do with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think far too, just what you just said there has nothing to do with me. I think far too often people think, oh, the world is revolving around me. Everybody's out to get me, or somebody did me wrong and they're just thinking about it. I'm like, they have gone on with their lives. They're not thinking about you. You are not crossing their mind. You know, you're giving so much energy away to something that is not valuable to you. Give the energy to yourself where you deserve it, where it belongs, and you make your life better than it was before. But giving so much energy to things that, you know, you can be down in the dumps. You can take a minute and focus on something and go, God, that makes me mad. But then throw that energy around, change your state, get a different way of perspective of looking at things, and then move forward, because there's no value in time spent, you know, poisoning yourself. You know, it's an old adage. It's you know, it's like drinking poison and thinking it's going to affect somebody else. So you have that state of just like, oh, I'm so mad at that person. All you're doing is you're just hurting yourself. You're not ending up hurting that other person, which is what I guess your goal is supposed to be at that point. Either try to get an understanding for that other person, or just put a bow on it, put it on the shelf and move on, do other things.
Absolutely. And in this day and age of where everyone's so quick to cancel everybody and everything, I think it's far important to really have conversations like these where we're reminding people that, like, what authority do you or I have to cancel anybody?
Right.
That's not on
And
us.
everybody has a value. This is something I've said for a while. I have a thing in one of my shows I do. I say, you're the swimmer that won. And what that means is there are like however many hundreds of thousands or millions or whatever of sperm that are trying to fertilize that egg. All right. And they're all trying to go to it. You're the swimmer that won. You're the one. You started this life as a winner, beating out all the other sperm that didn't get there. You started winning. So when you give away your power, when you sit there and be meek to somebody else or to a situation, and that doesn't serve you, you're like, if you come from the point of, I've already won this game, everything else in life is gravy. So if I've already started as a winner, let's keep building upon that and doing better things for ourselves, giving ourselves permission to be better people and to live the lives, do the things that make us happy. And, you know, and in that happiness, there are going to be some bumps in that road, but you're going to find a greater happiness if you're understanding and listening to people and gathering information and making yourself a more well-rounded person. And so I think if you just start with that every morning with that thing, like, I'm the swimmer that won. I get to be here. Whilst there are 100,000 other iterations of me that are not here, I'm the one that's here. So I already start out telling yourself, I'm a winner. You know, I'm already standing winning the gold on this podium. You know, and then start from there. I think it puts you in a different perspective and a bit different frame of mind.
And that's the understanding you can offer yourself on a daily basis and every night when you go to bed. Those are beautiful words. And you're a winner in my book. I mean, you know, I'm one of your biggest fans. And so
you're so sweet. You make me all tingly. I appreciate that.
That's that energy working, baby. That's that energy working. So as we wrap up, and I know you got a show getting ready for and all that stuff, and I appreciate so much you taking a few minutes of your time to talk about offering understanding to the world, to continue to put your beautiful message and your beautiful energy out into this place that we get to live in. And I say that we get to live in. It's an opportunity to be able to seize this every day. So thank you for taking time with me. And so for people who listen, Dixie, where can they find you and learn more about you?
You know, you can go to my website, has all the information about me at dixielongate.com. It's just my name, DIXIELONGATE.com. On there, you're going to see all the stuff I'm doing, the places that I'm going to be appearing on the road. As we talked about earlier, this is the theatrical season goes like the school year. It goes from the fall to the spring kind of thing. So I'm wrapping up this season soon. I got a bunch of shows coming up still. I'm going to be in Chandler, Arizona next week. I'm going to be in Jefferson City, oh Lord, after that, I'm doing a big show in Boston coming up in April. I'm doing a big show in Detroit coming up. And then that's all on the website. And then we're going to launch the whole next season coming up probably in about 2 months, you know. So
Okay.
all this other stuff that's going to be loaded onto the website coming up till the like May of 2024. So you can always see what I'm doing there. I'm always on social media, so you can find me on Facebook, Dixie Longate. You can find me on Twitter. I don't use Twitter all that much, but Instagram, I'm on there. I don't do TikTok because I don't even know how to do it. I tried to learn. I was like, this is crazy. I don't know how that many just dance it, you know. But you can find me on both the social media. I'm there and I'm active and I'm doing things and trying to put a little bit of kindness and smiles out in the world every time every chance I get.
Yes, yes, and it's wonderful. Like I said, I've been following for a long time, and before we go, I want to tell you that you actually fulfilled one of a long life, childhood dream of mine as somebody
Yeah.
who's wanted to be a journalist for as long as she could walk. And you met one of my childhood heroes, Sid Croft. Um,
It was
yes,
amazing. I am such a fan of Sid Croft, and I was so Sid started Sundays with Sid on his Instagram thing. So they do every Sunday. He has different guests, and then they talk for about an hour about stuff. And some people that that work on that had called me, had gotten in touch with me, and said, "Look, would you like to do this?" I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And they said, "Well, he's just going to interview you and talk to you." I was like, honey, I want to interview him. I want to talk to him. I want to ask him all the questions that I've always wanted to ask, because he defined my Saturday mornings. I remember all that stuff that I was growing up with: Land of the Lost, Dr. Shrinker, Electra Woman and Dinah Girl, The Bugaloos, all that stuff. And then, I started watching his Sundays with Sid, and I started finding out so much about his history before that. That all the marionettes he created, all the puppetry he did, all the amazing stars that he worked with, and I was like, what a great life! And so I got to do all that stuff. And then it was a couple of months back. They said, "You want to do it again?" And I said, "Here, I want to try something," because he's always done things where he's interviewed. It'll be like this: like somebody will pop up on top, he'll be on the bottom. And I was like, "Can I come to? I'm planning a trip out to LA. Can I interview him in person?" And they said, "Well, he normally just does it in his house, and you don't want to do interviews in person." I was like, "All right, well then." No, like I really doubled down, and I was like, I want to try to do this. And then they talked to him, and he's like, all right, I'll do it with her. And it was the funniest interview because I got to go in his house, and his house is insane. It's amazing. It's just a collection of the most amazing, artistic, weird stuff from his life and the things that people have given him and everything. And then we sat literally at the same table. I'm on one side of the table, he's on the other, and we had two cameras focused at us because they didn't want to. They wanted to still keep the format like that.
yeah.
But what was funny is the whole time he sat there staring at me during the interview. So the entire interview was the side of his head, looking at me, talking to me, and I'm trying to split between talking to his face and talking to the camera. And it was the most awkward interview, but it was hilarious. We had the
It
best
was.
and super, super sweet. What an angel! So yes, I will pass that along to him. Oh my Lord, he
Yes.
is a doll. He is an
Yes,
absolute.
look for that on Instagram because that's where I watched it. And it was amazing, and it warmed my heart. The man literally curated my childhood and my creative brain, so
Totally.
I give
He
him so much credit.
telling me he made me such a creative person. He made me the craziest person that I am today just by watching all his creative craziness. So that is so sweet. Yeah, no, I'll pass that along to him because I
Oh,
still talk to him
you're
and
so
talk.
sweet. You're
Oh my
so sweet. You've made my entire day and probably a good portion of my lifetime. Thank you, Dixie. Love you lots.
You are an angel sent straight from baby Jesus. I just adore you. Thank you for spending some time with me today. And go on, keep out there, keep out sharing some understanding with people. And I hope all the guests that you have, all the people that are watching, also do the same. Keep that understanding, keep that energy flowing, and it's going to just make for a better life. You're the swimmer that won. I always
That's
start.
right. You're the swimmer that won. Have a great show, beautiful. We'll talk
Thank
to you
you, my
soon.
darling. You take good care. Have a great weekend.
All right. Bye-bye.